Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Yonit Arthur, and welcome to Chronic Dizziness Stories, episode number 1. In this series, I'm going to be sharing some of the many stories that I receive through the various correspondence I get on Instagram and YouTube comments and email and one-on-one consultations and group coaching in my community. All of the stories that I'm going to share, of course, have been given to me by people who have also given me permission to share them. So, without further ado, I'd like to share some stories that I received recently from people who took my Healing Chronic Dizziness course and shared some about their stories from before they took the course and their experiences with the course. So, first, I wanted to share a story shared by Casey. So, here's what Casey says. Hello, I'm Casey, and I began noticing my symptoms of dizziness 6 months ago. To preface, I just finished my first year of physical therapy school. I had moved to a new city by myself where I didn't know anyone after losing my 54-year-old father to COVID and my grandmother in the same year. During this time period as well, my mother and I's relationship became very rocky. In January, I began having neck pain and I had similar symptoms prior, and with the help of physical therapy was able to relieve these symptoms and go on. Unfortunately, this time it seemed as though my symptoms were more sinister. I couldn't tell if I was having double vision and why I couldn't really focus on my computer screen to study. I couldn't tell. Oh, I began having severe mood swings and was feeling awful about myself. I had panic attacks throughout the night and thought I would have to drop out of school and go to inpatient psychiatric care. I could not figure out what was wrong with me. My doctor prescribed me anxiety and depression medication that helped immensely, but I was left with this bobbing, rocking, and swaying dizziness that I would come to figure out got worse whenever I went to the store or tried to study and look at my screen. Whenever I would sit still, I felt like I was moving, and it only went away when I was in the car. It got worse when I would get home from class and was horrid when I would wake up in the morning. The dizziness was and still is partially pretty constant all day, every day, and would get worse with certain activities. If I went somewhere that had a busy floor pattern or if I saw a busy pattern on a wall, I would get so dizzy and feel like I had to have a bowel movement as well. Going to the doctor and getting off the elevator to bright fluorescent lights and patterned floors was absolutely debilitating. I had to be taken back to the exam room in a wheelchair at the young age of 25. So I know some of you are listening to this and relating so hard, and I wish I could say that Casey's story so far is something so horrible that I've never heard it before, but unfortunately, these are the kinds of things that I hear from you guys. So if you're relating, you are not alone. So Casey continues, once I got in the car, I could feel the relief. On my lunch break for school, I would just get in the car and drive around for relief. I felt constant dread and complete loss of hope. I have seen ENTs, psychiatry, neurology, ophthalmology, a vestibular rehabilitation specialist, and even a holistic medicine doctor as well. I had a CT scan, an MRI that were all normal, an EKG, and blood work. All these smart people kind of threw their hands up and said, we don't really know. I was given many different medications to see if they would help that would only backfire and make my symptoms worse and give me weird adverse reactions. Being in school is a gift and a curse because I was, and partly still do, but getting better at trying not to, constantly researching my symptoms. I would dig through all my textbooks for an answer and many research articles about dizziness. A common thing would appear of anxiety, so I really just felt like a crazy person. I was looking at vestibular rehab videos on YouTube as I had not had neuro rehab yet at school, and I came across your videos for VOR exercises. I began the exercises, but they in fact made me worse and frustrated. Thankfully, Casey did not give up. He stuck around. So he says, I began to dig through your channel more and saw your videos explaining neural circuit dizziness. The videos reminded me of the biopsychosocial model for pain. Instantly, after watching the first video explaining my symptoms, I felt magically a little less dizzy. I began to notice how much my symptoms only caused me to research into the depths of the most awful, sinister, differential diagnoses possible and scare myself into thinking I was surely going to die. I hadn't realized that I had completely convinced myself that with a combination of failures in healthcare from my dad and my grandmother, that I would only have the same outcome. I had concluded that nobody would find out what's wrong with me. I would slip through the cracks in healthcare and just pass away, or have such a debilitating disease that it would handicap me for life. Since then, I have watched all your videos and finished the free course as well. This week, for the first time, I went a full day with almost no symptoms. It truly feels like a miracle. I definitely still struggle with this daily, and I have better days and worse days. For the most part, I'm noticing an upward trend, which I hope continues. As I continue through school with the help of a combination of vestibular exercises, mindfulness, parasympathetic breathing, exercising, supplements, and of course, more of an understanding that I have propelled myself into a perpetual fight or flight that I can control myself and eventually suppress to a normal level. I feel I have more of an internal locus of control after watching your videos and finishing this course. You are an absolute angel sent from heaven for providing these free and readily available services to people like me. I cannot thank you enough for your service as I continue on my rehabilitation journey and learn from your videos on your channel. Thanks so much, Casey. Hmm. So I know that those of you watching and listening here can very, very much relate to what Casey went through. And Casey, thank you so, so much personally for your note because um, it really means so much to me, means everything to me to know that the work I'm doing is doing this, that it's making a difference. And one day you're going to be a physical therapist helping others, and you're going to see things like this, and you're going to be able to explain to them what you know about how things are never purely biological and that they too have some control over what's going to happen to them. And even more importantly, Casey, thank you so much for sharing this and allowing me to share this with other people, because I know people watching this are relating so hard to what you went through and to what you're saying. And I think this is going to give more people hope. So thank you. Thanks, Casey. All right. So I wanted to continue with a short note that I received from Angie, who also took the course. So Angie says, I have had chronic dizziness since August 2021, but also suffered from vertigo on and off for 8 years. Originally, it was felt that my dizziness was due to a vestibular issue. I saw a VRT therapist who was wonderful and helped me with my vertigo, but this dizziness was still there. I was not coping well mentally in January, so decided to go back to her, and she said that I had rehabbed my vestibular system beautifully and was a bit perplexed that I was still suffering. She then talked to me about PPPD, triple PD. She explained what it was and what I needed to do to resolve it. I then looked up PPPD on a forum and saw the Steady Coach. I started this course in March of 2022, and today I would say I am 95% better. I'm still weary every day when I wake up. Is this real? And I'm getting back to my old self again, but I feel I'm on the recovery road. So thank you, Angie, for sharing that beautiful story. And so thrilled to hear that you feel more like your old self. That's why I'm here and why I'm doing all these things, just knowing there are people out there like you who can go back to living your life now. So I have one more story for you guys from Una. So buckle up because Una has quite a story to tell here. So Una says, I really thought I was going crazy, and I thought people also thought it. I was diagnosed with a low-grade, slow-growing brain tumor in December 2019, February 2020. I suffer from severe migraines, so that is how the tumor was found. I'm now on a watch and wait, having MRIs first year every 3 months, and now it's 6 months. Now, I just want to be clear. So Una explains later on in her note to me that the tumor was found to not be impacting her vestibular system. So, in other words, there are tumors that can compress the vestibular nerve, but this particular tumor, this benign tumor that Una is under watch for, was found not to be impacting her vestibular system. So, Una continues and tells us a little more about what was going on at the time. I have had a very difficult few years, also being the primary caregiver for my elderly sick mother, who at the time lived with me. I am also struggling with my work, having panic attacks and many new stresses from it. I also lost a 10-day young granddaughter who was at home living normally, who suddenly died from a heart defect that we were not aware of. Watching my daughter go through this and going through it myself was extremely hard and still is. I also suffer from depression and anxiety, and for the last few years, I've been treating it with medication and therapy. Looking back, I know exactly what triggered my nausea and dizziness that took over my life and changed my world. I remember having a panic attack at work on a Sunday morning only to come home and find myself in bed not being able to open my eyes. The room was a constant spin and I could not even walk to the washroom. I was afraid and didn't know what was happening. It lasted the entire day and was gone in the morning. After that, I started on this journey. I then, from that day until now, feel very nauseated, sometimes so bad I just urge and urge uncontrollably. I will also have to burp constantly like I am full of air. I feel very unbalanced, hot, and overwhelmed. I tried explaining to my GP, so that's general practitioner for those of you outside, not outside the United States, my symptoms with fear it was from my tumor. I felt I was dying, and she would tell me it wasn't my tumor from a medical standpoint, since it didn't show any kind of pressure around it from MRIs, but it didn't answer if, and she couldn't answer what it was that was causing it. She tried me on 2 different meds for nausea to try to help me get through my work days, with both not giving me any relief. A few months dealing with this, she thought maybe it was vertigo and sent me to an ENT specialist. He put me on medication that would help with symptoms, told me he felt it was central vertigo, likely from migraines or vestibular migraines. While dealing with all this, I was now off work from symptoms and not driving, not doing anything but staying home, going to appointments, and visiting my mother in long term care home. My doctor started me on physiotherapy treating vertigo. When none of this worked, and it seemed I was getting worse, the ENT told me it was nothing he could diagnose and he was sending me back to my GP. I know, again, this story is probably resonating with a lot of you. So, being sent from doctor to doctor with no answers, and basically they just send you back and forth like, I can't help you. So, Una continues. She goes back to the GP, and she was at a loss with lots of suggestions, but not putting anything into action, just reaffirming that it wasn't the tumor making me feel like I was more crazy and this was all in my head. I reached out to my neurologist that had been treating my migraines with my symptoms that I was feeling. I told him I was nauseated and unbalanced. I told him I was unable to go to my phone or go to stores, to look at my phone or go to stores. I was unable to work because my job required me to get up and down constantly and do stairs frequently. I felt I was having motion sickness all the time. I was afraid to drive and go for walks. While I was waiting for him to get back to me, I heard in a support group I had found for dizziness your name and the Steady Coach. I looked it up on YouTube, and my husband and I started watching the videos, thinking after each one, damn, this lady knows me. My neurologist set me up with an appointment and I went to see him. He told me I was having persistent postural perceptual vertigo, so PPPV, which is another name for triple PD. He said in order to fix it, I would need cognitive behavioral therapy, SSRI, medication, and vestibular rehabilitation. And just so you know, those are the standard recommendations for that. He would send it back to my GP for her to get it all set up, and I needed to do all 3 in order for my symptoms to go away. While I wait for my GP to get back to me, I started doing some of my own research. I could not find PPPV anywhere, but I could find PPPD. And the more I read, the clearer it was that this is what I was suffering from. I then started my journey with you. I have done your free course and watched so many of your videos. You have helped me to recognize what caused this, and you helped me to write down my stresses I have dealt with. You helped me look deep inside myself and see who I am as a person and how I'm also that strong person for everyone, but do not give myself any self love, compassion, or any type of break. I took my sickness into my own hands, and through research in my area, I have found myself a vestibular rehab physiotherapist I start working with next week. I've also enrolled myself into CBT sessions online that are free through my employment benefits. I listen to your videos every day and get so much strength and guidance from you. You have changed my life. I went for my first walk yesterday with my husband, who has been so supportive to this day and also feels like you are doing me good. It was a short walk, but a very huge step for me. I did it with very few symptoms and it made me feel somewhat normal. I'm still waiting to hear from my GP, but she is not hindering me from my recovery. You have showed me the hard work I have to put in and told me what I will feel, but also reassured me over and over, I can do this and I will get better. I believe it, and I can already feel a shift. I know I have to give it time, and also I have to deal with what initially caused this, whether it's setting up boundaries, loving myself, or whatever, but I feel with the tools I have and knowledge from you, I got this. Thank you so much. Yeah, so these are the kinds of things that I hear from you guys, and I'm sure, again, this is something that you watching this relate to a lot, and um, you can hear in my voice that it touches me deeply to hear these kinds of stories from you guys. So Casey, Angie, and Una, thank you so much for letting me share these stories with everyone. And I hope to hear from more of you. So if you'd like to share your story, you can finish the free course. So the free course I'll link to in the video description below. And there's a survey at the end with a little form that you can fill out. And if you check the box and say, yep, go ahead and share, you're welcome to share this with others, then I will I would love to share your story here on YouTube or um, on whatever social media platform you guys think that this would be good for. So thank you so much, all three of you, for sharing, and thank you everyone who's given me such amazing stories, either through my free course or on YouTube. So I love hearing from you guys. All right, guys, I hope this was great. Please leave any comments below. Let me know what you think of this format and this new series I'm working on, because if you like it, I will keep doing it. So comment, share, like, subscribe, the usual, and I will talk to you guys again soon. Bye-bye.